just going to share my screen here with you. Really hoping that we can engage in a lot of conversation here today, versus, going through slides. I think we talked a lot about everything that is here on the slides, but I think, this is a great opportunity for us to get together, look at, what the goal and mission originally was with the business leadership committee. Hasn't changed, but we've merged sector training with it. It just seems like it makes a lot of sense with all of the work that's happening with the regional sector partnerships and with the Career Connect, that we bring these two initiatives together. So would love to kind of take a look at what we have originally been charged with and get your feedback as to, are these still the right things that we should be focusing on? There's some things that we have had more attention to than others. Obviously, we can't do everything all at once, but I think what we've been able to do over the last 2 years is really develop the system approach with the regional sector partnerships that we can start to really pick up maybe on some of these conversations that we haven't quite dug as deep into as we would like to. So as we're looking at, business leadership, when I talk about the governor's workforce strategic plan, I always talk about business leadership first, because this is really the heart and soul of the engagement of the work that's being done in the development and implementation of the plan. When we first developed the plan, we identified under business leadership that regional sector partnerships was a good initiative as one of the initiatives. And what we've done over time is really elevated that to, this is the way we convene our businesses. And, we talked a lot about skills-based hiring, quality jobs. It's nice to see Sarah here. I'm sure you saw quality jobs on the agenda, and Sarah in the Next Gen and the other organizations that she participates with is very involved with that. And Campus CT, I'm glad to see Courtney here to maybe give us a brief overview on the traction that Campus CT has done. So I think there might be some call out for participation and maybe how we can move some of these agenda items forward. In bringing together the sector partnership work, it's really adding to that incumbent worker training as part of our $40 million bond authorization. Incumbent worker training is an area that is really important for OWS to support our businesses on. It's not an allowable use of our ARPA dollars. And so we're looking at how to establish that program and how that program will be run. We do not have the auth allocation of those funds yet, but I think if we can do the groundwork to show our legislators and our Office of Policy and Management that we're ready to manage these funds, we'll be able to get them released through the bond process. We're also working on a pay it forward fund. I had a conversation with Niall Demondo. A lot of you know Niall as our Chief of Staff. Niall left us this summer to join the MBA program at Yale University. And he is continuing to champion the work of OWS and is working to develop a process for the graduate students to work on projects across state agencies. And he's going to recruit some students to help us model out our Pay It Forward fund. And this has been accelerated for us through some legislation that was passed last session, charging OWS with establishing a career accelerator fund focused on CDL licensing. And we're looking to make some adaptations to that legislation in this legislative session to broaden that to all industry sectors that are in demand and have quality programs. So there's some work to be done around that, and work to be done to expand our SNAP E&T program. This is for people who are on some state supports and provides opportunities for them for education and training programming. And we receive a 50% match of federal dollars to this. Connecticut's kind of under prescribed in this project right now. So I'm going to just close with asking, you know, I'd love to hear your feedback and some comments on this. And Courtney, maybe you can give us an overview of where we're at with Campus CT as well. Do these feel like the right initiatives for us to be talking about? Do you feel that the regional sector partnerships are the place to have all of these discussions? Should we have discussion groups outside of the regional sector partners on these topics?
Kelly, I'm just going to jump in. I'm not trying to overstep who you had asked, but I'm thrilled to see incumbent worker training funding on your list. As you may know, I was a business services representative at the American Job Center until my retirement, still doing work with the Eastern Connecticut Workforce Investment Board. But right now, most of, if not all of the incumbent worker money is for manufacturing. And years ago, oh my gosh, you know, I was on the job for 12 years. We had incumbent worker funding for other industries, and healthcare was a very big user of that. And I know myself, I was able to write, I can't tell you how many contracts, small contracts. They weren't looking for a lot of funding. At the time, you know, it was when people were going to electronic medical records. But I see now, and I know my colleagues are still asked because people are upgrading their systems and going to tablet-based, you know, reporting for and nursing homes and stuff. So expanding incumbent worker training funding into other industries, I applaud that. And I can't tell you, I think that is a wonderful, you know, we bring people in, we want them to grow in their jobs and develop their careers, and incumbent worker training does that.
Thank you very much for your support on that. And we wholeheartedly agree. We've got a lot of data to point to the Manufacturing Innovation Fund incumbent worker training pool. And I think this is a really important issue across the state of Connecticut. And with those funds, we did a 50% match. So it wasn't just giving all the funds to our partners, but helping our partners expand their ability to provide that important incumbent worker training. I'm not sure if Sarah or Christina was next. Christina?
Actually, it's kind of funny. Sarah will probably appreciate exactly what I'm going to say. And that is the incumbent worker training in the other sectors is also critical to families and moving people through and up into, you know, providing more economic mobility. So key, because I hear so much that we talk about our entry level positions. And quite honestly, we have been asked for a lot of incumbent worker training around healthcare very recently. And that really helps our families move forward because they're already working. They're just hanging on by a thread. And so helping them advance to better paying jobs, less hectic schedules, and is just really key. So I think that as an emphasis is really important. And that also gets at some of the older populations that Joe was talking about, that we can't lose that spectrum. So thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Sarah?
And I can just piggyback on you, Christina. So I was going to say two things. One, I think connecting at least some of the incumbent worker training to this broad set of new training that's in place. So people take that first step, but then have the ability to have mobility for many of the reasons that Christina said. And I also think in thinking about the incumbent training, how to make it friendly for workers in terms of logistics and schedule so that they can juggle all the different responsibilities. And that may include, how do you kind of, you may have to have on-site childcare. I think of some of the healthcare workers, and usually they have to run home after shift. So how do you upskill them if they have to do that? And I would encourage employers, of course, to do as much of that incumbent training, on the clock as possible, because that makes it much more possible. But I think thinking about it, and I know that it relates over to the career pathways pipeline, but really thinking about incumbent worker training as a piece of a continuum from some of this baseline training that is now in place.
Thank you, Sarah, and 100% agree with you. And I think, this was designed to support the continuation of the education of those who are going through. And I think, we found a way in which we can provide some additional supports through Career Connect. If someone is going through a program, say as a CNA, they get employed, they still may be technically underemployed with regards to their wages, and they could come back as an individual for those additional credentials. A little bit different than if the company comes and asking to upskill a group of their employers. So we think that's a little bit of a loophole that we can get some people upskilled that way. But I think that there's a big, partnership with employers on how do we make sure that we give these people the opportunity while they're working to get upskilled. So I'd love to hear a little bit from our employers about that. But first we'll hit Nancy, then Molly, then Ed.
Hi, thanks so much, Kelly. I'm Nancy Taylor. I'm the Director of Workforce Development for Charter Oak State College. And Linda, I wanted to kind of piggyback on one of the things you were saying about electronic medical records. We were fortunate enough to have gotten one of the Career Connect grants, and it's to do exactly that. We had heard a lot of feedback from particularly hospitals, and we will be working with one of the major hospital systems in the state about getting people into the very, very lucrative, very great field of revenue cycle and health information management. And so our training is going to be to get people from the community to get entry-level training to get some of those jobs. But then the nice thing is what we've done is we've created a pathway where they can come in and take a basic certificate, credit-bearing certificate, move up to a bachelor's degree, even move up to a master's degree if they want to at some point. And I think exactly what you're saying is what we need to do, is we need to figure out not just the folks that are in the workforce, but then how do we get those folks into these jobs? How do we even teach them about what jobs are available? And I know that's been a big issue, particularly for things like sort of esoteric jobs like health information management. But if you look at the demand for it, it's absolutely overwhelming. And if you look at the ability to really climb up the ladder in a job like that, it's phenomenal. So I think that's really one of the issues is how do we take the work that we're doing here and get those messages out about really good careers that are out there that we could be helping people with. And then once they get into them, relying on our employer community to be able to do that continuing education with them to help them move up that ladder.
Nancy, that's really exciting that you're talking about that, because the portal will allow people to understand the opportunities that are available. And so you'll have the opportunity to put together some information about your programs, everyone will, and to be part of that journey that people will be able to follow as to looking at those different opportunities. And it will be also connected to open jobs that are open right now. That'll get scanned through in Connecticut. So the demand people will be able to see that as well. And I'll also share with you, if we have time, a quick peek at our marketing campaign.
I'm really excited about that, Kelly. That's fantastic.
Great. Molly.
Hi, everyone. I'm Molly. My company, Hubbard Hall, is in Waterbury, Connecticut, and I'm also involved with the Next Gen Manufacturing in Northwest, so with Kathy Awad and others. And I've got just a more basic question. So for this time now in this committee, are we trying to say the bullet points on the left and the right are the focus? We're trying to prioritize. I'm being on the business side, like what do we want to have come out of this, or what do we want to say at 4:50 that we can't say now?
Exactly. I think to your point, Molly, is, we know that the regional sector partnerships are business led, and we want to make sure that you are having the conversations that are right for you at your time. Yeah. And these are some other things that in the strategic plan, when we were writing it, we found were very important. And so are these things that we should be kind of connecting with our regional sector partnerships and getting them to kind of evaluate whether now or later or when is a good time to have these conversations? And do we want to have them within the regional sector partnerships, or do we want to have some of these conversations in committees outside of the regional sector partnerships maybe, and then we can do some foundational work to bring back to the regional sector partnerships?
Since I'm off mute, I'll take a So I guess my vote, and we're really focused on manufacturing in our area. So if I look on the right and the short-term upskilling and reskilling, can we connect what we're focusing on and bringing more manufacturing to the state, creating more manufacturing jobs? How do we move from the left to the right there and look at, I don't know, participating in what's already happening at statewide level with the upskilling and reskilling. And at the end of the day, again, we're going to raise our hand and ask everyone to choose a career in manufacturing, because that's what we're fighting for. But so I do see some connection between the two. And I'll need everyone's help to figure out how do we marry that effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, part of the conversation that businesses can have is, now that we've provided someone with entry-level skills to come into your business, then how do you as a group of businesses ensure that they have a quality job that they're going into? And there's some definitions around quality jobs, but when we're thinking about a quality job, it's someone who has the ability for upward job ladders to move up in their career, to earn a living wage, to have their job valued in multiple different ways within and outside of the organization. So a lot of work is being done on a national front with regards to skills-based hiring and quality jobs. And, if the business community is interested, we are happy to be able to connect some of that national work and bring in thought partners to your sector partnerships to start thinking about, how can we be very mindfully thinking about this? Because I think, when we talk about it, it really helps our own internal businesses as well.
So that is once we've got people employed, how do we then continue to upskill, continue to train, make it something more than just a job? That's that connection. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Exactly. And being able to bring people into positions that you might historically looked at needing a baccalaureate degree for, or some other type of credential, and can we start with a lower credential and then upskill them into those positions? I'm a manufacturer as well. I have 2 manufacturing companies, and I joined this work as an industry partner. So I've been, right there with you, Molly, and grappling with these issues in my own business. And, it's important to be thinking about, ensuring that we are upskilling in my companies. We have an aging workforce as well, and there's that gap in the middle, right? And so how do we move people up through the continuum so that we can continue to grow our businesses? And technology and manufacturing is changing immensely. I see Paul on the line here. And we want to make sure that we're getting people the skills they need to be forward thinking into Industry 4.0. And I think if we're thinking in that way, quality jobs and skills-based hiring almost have to happen in order for us to get to where we need to be.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Hi, thank you. So one thing that I often hear, especially in the construction industry or in manufacturing, where it might not be centralized, but maybe, down southeastern Connecticut in EB, is the lack of reliable transportation. If I'm going to take someone from the Waterbury area where I live, how am I getting them to that great job at Electric Boat where they can, there's no bus line, there's no train to get them there, and that is often a barrier. So I know there is the SNAP E&T funding, there is some for transportation. I'm just wondering what the details are on that to get people reliable transportation so we can get the bodies to the job. I often hear in the apprenticeship in the Connecticut State Building Trades, it's, they're up in Torrington, but the, training site is down in Meriden and they can't get there because they're an underrepresented population. They're coming from, an urban area and inner city, and this really is their lifeline to get out, but they can't get there but for a car.
Yeah, that's a great point, Ed. And over in the DEI and A committee, we have, and of course you can work in those committees as well. We need to address transportation issues that we have. I know it's important to our legislators, it's important to our businesses. And there's been a lot of collaboration. So OWS was able to work through an expansion of the UPass program in the 2021 legislative session, which allowed employers access to be able to purchase greatly discounted bus fare for their employees. That was historically only for students, and so that was expanded. I had a conversation with the community college, Jim Lambella, just, was it yesterday? Jim, you were talking about the collaboration between the Department of Transportation and expanding bus routes to different educational opportunities. So it's a matter of us, I think, coming together and collaborating on what is needed where, and then systematically being able to address those issues. And in our bond funding dollars, we also have plans for a transportation fund that could help people, buy that first car that's without a 27% interest rate, or fix their transmission when it blows because they don't have the money to do that, or get their car registered and things like that. So an alternative kind of safety net fund for transportation, but be very happy to have your insights and input on that work. Rich.
Just following on that point, I guess to say, and Kelly, I think you were making this in your comments, that it's not just, the transportation is not just an issue during the training phase, but it's once people are done. And have we done an analysis to say, if you look around Electric Boat and whatever the reasonable commuting distance is, are there enough people in that zone to fill the jobs? And if there aren't, do we need to then think, let's have a much more creative transportation solution of maybe we should have a dedicated bus that goes from, pick a city, from New Haven to New London, that we can actually get a bunch of welders in the bus in the morning and they just carpool together. Maybe it's a crazy idea, don't know.
No, it's not a crazy idea at all, Rich. I think that is conversations that we've been having, with Electric Boat. We've had this conversation with Jim in our manufacturing working group is, there is not enough workers in probably Connecticut to fill all of the jobs that Electric Boat has. It's not only transportation, but it's housing as well in the region. And there's not enough housing. So we need to have reliable transportation for people to get there. And so when we start looking at, expanding our manufacturing programs, building out a statewide schedule, then we can start to really understand where those traffic patterns are and build out those bus routes, bring back the easy car, the easy van, easy street vans and things like that. Jim, Christina, you have anything to pipe in on any of that? We've had so many robust conversations.
Sure, absolutely. No, I'm listening to the conversation, great dialogue. A couple of things I'd like to really add is, the employers, we're seeing more and more employers, transportation, absolutely. We've worked with the Department of Transportation in the Northwest corner up at Northwestern Community College. We've expanded their transportation now to 10 p.m. in the evening, used to stop at 3:30 in the afternoon. But again, these are all things finding what the community needs, just like you were saying, Kelly. We've got to find out where the need is, where the patterns are, and how we can address them. I also want to just really say to the employers, here, the employers that are investing in their employees, we're seeing more and more employers, paying mileage, paying an hourly wage, letting employees come and take classes during a day or during an evening. Also, we offer, the flex schedules for employers. We have some employers that bring us in during shift change, and we go to the employer and do the training on site, during a shift change where they're letting one shift out an hour early, the other shift is starting an hour earlier as well, and kind of that crossover. So lots of different models that can really be employed. And just really a shout out to all the employers, paid internships. We need paid internships for our students. It's an opportunity for you to see the students, to see their work ethic. It's an opportunity for the students to see your business and the family environment that you offer. And we have 90% of our individuals out there in paid internships. They're getting a job offer before they even complete the program. So connect with your colleges, connect with the educational institutions. But I hear all the same challenges we deal with: transportation, childcare, your food insecurities. We have to support the students while they're here, but we need that tier to continue on. Like the gentleman just said, what do we do after they have the job? They still need the supports, they still need the transportation. So tackling these things together, I think is exactly where we need to go, and it's the right direction. So the great work, Kelly, and this group, and happy to contribute where and when we can, absolutely.
Thank you, Jim. Sarah, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to note that in the 2Gen work that is happening in the state, we actually asked UConn to do some research on car ownership and car lending. In part, I think it was Rich Yu who said what happens after the training and they get a job and those supports go away and you still can't get to work. And public transportation, employer van pools are some of the solution. And then I think we have to have a kind of multiplicity of solutions. So I wanted to kind of add that, Kelly, and I know we're going to be talking about that. So 2Gen, the workforce folks are very focused on it. I think, Kelly, your graphic from before, and I know we're on the next slide, I think what it sounds like there is that connection, the request that you were asking about. And then I think we're hearing kind of the need for thinking about both the quality that you mentioned and also the surround kind of supports that needs to be a piece of business leadership and sector training. And it's always amorphous because there's also the other, or not amorphous, but it's hard to link it all because the other committees do some of that too. But I'm kind of hearing a lot of energy around, yes, the connection between these pieces and how you kind of think about what has to be packed around that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Sarah. And when we think about the population that are underserved and underskilled, that we're really focusing on these training dollars on, we've got funding now to support the training and wraparound services for over 10,000 people just in the two funding streams of Career Connect and Good Jobs Challenge, not to mention the money that comes in through WIOA, which is about $32 million a year, and all of the other ancillary monies that come in through philanthropy and other grant opportunities. And a big part of that funding is wraparound services. And we really need to understand that if we're going to expand our workforce, we have a workforce shortage. We need to expand that workforce. And the people that we're going to be bringing into the workforce are not so typical of the college graduate that you may have been used to bringing into your organizations before. These are people who may not have a lot of work experience, might have barriers such as transportation, childcare, caring for a family member or others. There's a lot of considerations there. And so when we start thinking about quality jobs, the conversation can come around to how do we accommodate those people? How do we support them into a job and understand that they might not hit the ground running on day one, that there might be some barriers that they need to overcome. I know in my business, my accountant every year would get mad at me. Why are you giving all of these loans to your employees? Well, if someone comes to me and says, my car broke down and I can't get to work, what are we supposed to do? Right? We need to make sure that they can get to work. We need them as much as they need us. So we give them a loan. My radiator, my furnace broke in my house and it's the winter time and I don't have the money to fix it. These are things that we need to do to help our employees. And thinking about flexible work schedules. I think it's Marcia LaFlemina is putting together a program where she's doing working parents hours, and she's doing a, drop your kids off at school, come to work until you need to go pick them up, right? If they have a sick day, you have a sick day. These are things that when we think about a quality job that kind of get rolled up into that quality job. And as employers, we need to think a little bit differently about how we're going to support this population into this work, elevate them to a point where they overcome those barriers, they gain those agency skills that they need so that they can become those highly productive employees. And if we support them, their loyalty to you will be there probably for the rest of their lives. So I think, it's as an employer, just thinking about, how we can put together programs within our organizations that allow us to kind of do this work because it helps us in the long run by that. So I'm just going to take a minute and transition our conversation. Before actually we get to this, I want to share with you some fun stuff around our marketing campaign. So here is our Career Connect marketing campaign. We're really focusing it on you as the individual, gaining the confidence, skills, and the agency to be able to see yourself in these jobs and know that you can do it, and that these support systems are in place to help you be successful in these training programs. So these vignettes will change for all different people, representative in all different careers. We'll be hitting social media, we'll be hitting the airwaves, the TV waves, bulletin boards, wherever we feel that it's best, making sure that we're putting together a marketing toolkit for all of anybody who wants one. So you can put up flyers in the local grocery stores, barber shops, churches, everywhere and anywhere that people go. We want them to see themselves in this, and driving them to that central portal where they can really access all of these training programs. And we've been working very collaboratively with the Manufacturing Innovation Fund and CSCU in their Hearts and Minds campaign for manufacturing, and making sure that our campaign is connected to their campaign, so that we can really gain traction on bringing people into manufacturing. So we're really excited to share this, and you'll be seeing a lot more of this as we launch the portal and the work that we're doing. We're looking forward to when we can share the marketing campaign for Hearts and Minds as well. So I just wanted to shift in the few minutes that we have left and kind of talk about Good Jobs Challenge. I know a lot of you are in regional sector partnerships. It's so exciting to have this 23.9 million. They couldn't have just made it 24 and made it that easy. To talk about, some of the impacts that this funding is going to have across the state, and how we can really use this synergy to ensure that this system that we're developing is sustainable over the funding and past the funding that we have here. And Marty's been, a great champion of our regional sector partnerships. So Marty, I'm going to put you on the spot and give you a moment to kind of share a little bit about your insights about the partnerships.
Well, as I said in a prep call, Kelly, we're still in the early innings of this process, but what's great to see is that people realize that the challenges of workforce have so many interdependencies. And when you have so many interdependencies, you need collaboration to solve the problem. So everyone has to work together. It's in everyone's interest. No one group or no one sector, no one academia, business, government can solve these problems alone. So I've liked the business-led focus because the business has the jobs. But I really like having the whole ecosystem in these partnerships because, the wisdom is around the table. Everyone comes with experiences. They come with, ideas. They come with best practices, and, people are trusting each other. What I'm seeing in these partnerships is people are listening to each other, trusting each other. Competitors are figuring out how to create great ecosystems, because everyone's, when you have a really fruitful geography, everyone benefits from the harvest, right? I mean, so it's really to enable the entire ecosystem to flourish, and there'll be enough harvest for everybody. So I think the regional sector partnerships are going to be great. I'm looking forward to the Tech Talent Accelerator being a model to transfer these business needs into the right curriculum and the right the right focus, so that graduates come out and there's nothing worse than people who train and then get paid. People who go through a training program and there's no job. And I had lunch with Terrence today, and we were talking about this moment that if people do something, they should expect a result. And I think if the disappointment happens in society where people work hard and then can't get a job. We told them they should be working hard. We need to do a better job at pointing that in the right direction. But I think it's impressive what's going on. I did have a question though, and wondering, how does Career Connect fit into the regional sector partnerships and the Good Jobs Challenge? And I think, we have all these resources, we have all these expectations. How do we organize all these swim lanes so that we're really getting maximum benefit on the other side?
Yeah, I think that's a great segue. I wish we had more time. I think we could spend a lot of time here today. But I would love to, the regional sector partnerships are really the place where we can engage employers around what is it that you need for us to have in these training programs. We have all of these dollars. We have, 2.5 years to expend them. We have some good programs now, great programs now, but what programs are we going to need in a year from now or 2 years from now? And this is the opportunity to engage our sector partnerships to tell us what they need. And I wanted to have a broader conversation on, some of the identifications of the critical skills, knowledge, and abilities and what's in demand. And, each of the regional sector partnerships did a lot of work on identifying that within their regions. And then how do we make sure, as we did with the tech talent, that we're elevating those skills and bringing them to our educational partners to ensure that they're embedded? And how do we systematically understand what those skills are? And how do we do this on a regular basis so that we're not, building programs and then kind of letting them sit and get stale? And Garrett had a really amazing program with TPM that he was able to really systematically do this. So we've got 30 seconds left, Garrett. I'm so sorry, but we will reconvene this conversation if you want to close us out.
Yeah, sure. And I tried to mention it a little bit in my comments earlier, but yeah, TPM is a U.S. Chamber program. It's really just a way to organize the employers so that they can speak more clearly about their needs directly to the talent providers.
That's great. And, we think about how we've taken the best practices of the workforce boards and brought them